So let's start talking about Java. So we're going to talk about programming and programming languages. We're going to introduce Java and we're going to talk about object-oriented concepts. Java was introduced in 1995 by Sun Microsystems. It's actually a really popular language. It's actually currently owned by Oracle. Oracle bought it a few years ago. A programming language specifies words and symbols that we can use to write a program. A programming language employs a set of rules that dictate how the words and symbols can be put together to form a valid program. In the Java programming language, a program is made up of one or more classes, a class contains one or more methods, and a method contains programming statements. These terms will be explored in more detail throughout the course. A Java application always contains a method called main. So the main method is the entry point for the Java program. So whenever you compile and run your program, when you run your program, your Java runtime environment is going to look for your main method. That's where it's going to start your program. Here's an example of a program. So they named this program Lincoln. So you can see the class header. And then here is your main method. This main method is always going to look the same. Public static void main, and then you're going to pass in string. Now this identifier right here, args, that can actually change. It doesn't actually have to be args, but we're just going to keep using args because that's the accepted practice. And here within this program, they're printing things out to the console. They're creating string literals indicated by these double quotes. So system out print line, this is an L and that's an N, that's a lowercase L, lowercase n, and then they're printing out this string literal. They're also printing a second line right there. Here they give you what the output would be. The Java program structure, you have your class header, and then you have the body of the class indicated with open curly brace and a closed curly brace. So within the class, you're going to have the main method, and this is the method header for the main method. So for the first few chapters, like all this is going to be the same, and the only thing we're going to change is what's inside of this main method body. So comments should be included to explain the purposes of a program and to describe processing. They do not affect the program in any way. There's three types of comments that we can use. We can use the single line comment, we can use the multi-line comment, and then we have the Java documentation comment. We'll discuss the Java documentation in more detail after we finish chapter 4. Identifiers. So identifiers are words in a program. A Java identifier can be made up of letters, digits, underscores, and the $sign. Identifiers cannot begin with a digit. Java is case sensitive. So total, and total are all different identifiers. So total with the capital T, total all lowercase, and total in all caps. These are considered to be all different identifiers. By convention, programmers use different case styles for different types of identifiers, such as title case for class names, uppercase for constants. Now, we do have a coding standard. So if you go onto Canvas and look at our coding standard, I have a particular way that I want you to write your identifiers depending on what they're used for. So we are going to use title case for class names and files, and we are going to use uppercase for constants. Any quizzes, exams, or programs that you write must comply with our coding standard. Now, there are some sections in there that are not applicable until later on in the chapters, but it's still important to just read through the entire thing and get an overview of what to expect. So before you turn in any work to me, verify that your code does comply with the coding standards. Sometimes the programmer chooses the identifier such as Lincoln. Sometimes we are using another programmer's code, so we use identifiers that he or she chose, such as print line. Okay, so this is print line, where this is the lowercase l. Often we use special identifiers called reserved words that already have a predefined meaning in the language. A reserved word cannot be used in any other way. So here is a list of all the reserved words. Now you will have to memorize some of these. Like as we come across them, I'm going to expect you to know what they are. So for the sake of this course, there's a lot here that we're not actually going to talk about, but we are going to come across things like Boolean, byte, case, class, like everything that we've seen as we code. I am going to expect you to memorize. I'm not going to ask you questions like, hey, list out all the reserved words, but I am going to expect you to know what the reserved words are, especially when you're programming. Quick check, which of the following are valid Java identifiers? Now keep in mind, a valid Java identifier is composed of numbers, letters, the underscore, and the $sign, but it cannot start with the number, okay? So knowing that, we can go ahead and eliminate this one here because it starts with the number, this one here because we can't use the hashtag or the $sign within our identifiers, and then this one right here because we can't use the %. The only special characters that we can use is the underscore and the $sign. Spaces, blank lines, and tabs are called white space. White space is used to separate words and symbols in a program. Extra white space is ignored. A valid Java program can be formatted in many ways. Programs should be formatted to enhance readability and use consistent indentation. So I'm going to go ahead and just bold this right here. So like I said, we do have a coding standard. So I do expect you to follow some rules of formatting and indentation. So go to Canvas and review the coding standard.